Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Deep True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. In today's episode, we want to share with you tracking Bryan Kohberger. That's right. Right now, he is currently in the air on his way from Pennsylvania all the way to Idaho. They have made 2 stops along the way. We're going to dive into any new updates. There's so much around this. There's always something that comes out, right? Including the new body cam footage from his very first stop on their way to Pennsylvania when they got stopped in Indiana. We're going to dive into that as well. So let's get into it. We are tracking him as he is traveling. You can see right here, the blue line is him from their last stop in South Dakota. They are on their way to Idaho. Not exactly sure which one they're going to be landing in, but we're going to track it as much as we can before I get off of here. And so we're going to just see are they going to they're going to derail? They're going to go a different way? Are they going to, because you know that there are people lined up at the airport. The one that is closest, I think it's in Washington or something, that's not far, or actually might be in Pullman, something along those lines. And we'll catch up with that here in a second. But you know there are a lot of people following the thing. Is it not true? Come on. Believe it or not, you think I'm crazy by even just having this up there? This is my way of just keeping in touch on what's going on with the Idaho stalker suspect. And at the same time, we want to know exactly why this has occurred. And so what we're doing here is we're tracking the suspect as we update you on some of the things that we now know. You see, he has been alleged to be the guy who did the most heinous thing you can possibly do to human beings. But not only that, when we come to find out that he actually might have been in the early stages of something bigger to come, if this is the right person that we have. Those are some of the things that we are finding out, right? And so when you stop and you think about it, was he going to be some bigger than other famous, people in this aspect? Serial K's, as I should say, I guess, right? Was he on the way to something much more heinous? And that's why we're tracking him back to Idaho. He started in Pennsylvania around Scranton. They stopped to refuel. We'll dive into that as well. And now we're seeing, is he going to make it there in one piece? We know one of the reasons why they did a private trip back. This is one of the most notorious high-profile cases the nation has seen in a very long time. And so with that being said, we only want the right person to have to pay for this, right? We don't want the wrong person to have to pay for this. Is that not a fair statement? And so here he is en route back to Idaho. And with that also being said, here he is. He is just a suspect. He is a suspect. He boarded a flight from Pennsylvania back to Idaho this morning by way of a small Pennsylvania state police plane. So that's why it would take as long as it has. I think it has now been about 13 hours since they left. Something along those lines, about 13 hours since they left Pennsylvania. And they've stopped now for 2 different reasons. One we know, for refueling, and the second one we can only assume is refueling as well. According to Latah County Sheriff Richard Skiles, upon arrival, the defendant will be housed in the 37 inmate capacity jail. This little jail holds 37 people. However, it does not look like he will be part of the lockup facility's general population right out of the gate. We are finding out that this is literally, he will be the highest profile person to ever be incarcerated in the local and relatively tiny jail, Latah County Jail. And truth is that really that surprising? Because we do know there won't be a lot to him, right? There won't even be a lot to him when it comes to this little jail. Is he safe from general population? I'm going to still say no. Because we know how people can say, oh, they have arrested him for this, he must be guilty. Literally, we know a lot of people are like that, right? So he's going to be in the Latah County Jail. Again, can house 37 people. That is not a lot. He is the highest profile person to ever be incarcerated in that local little tiny jail. The one you're looking at right now. The defendant, again, he is a defendant. He's only been accused. He hasn't had his day in court. He left the Keystone State and the authority of the Pennsylvania State Police as he entered the doors of the 47-foot-long plane during the early morning hours of January 4th, 2023. And of course, that's when all the tracking began. And again, you can see as he's making his way back to Idaho to be held accountable for what he is blamed and police, they say they have the right person. They have the person that is responsible for this heinous crime. And so now he's on his way back to Idaho. He's probably going to land in Idaho in about an hour, right around there. Now, after setting foot in this one sleepy college town, where this is generally known as a safe area, has not seen a crime of anything close to this magnitude in 7 years. And that incident is nothing like where 4 young college students brutally had their lives taken from them in the early hours of November 13. In a brief talk with Law and Crimes Network, Anjanette Levy, who I follow quite a bit on Twitter, Skiles said his office was prepared for Kohberger's arrival and that the jail would be able to accommodate the defendant's strict vegan diet. You heard that right. They are going to be able to accommodate the jail person's strict vegan diet. Is that because they're treating him like, hey, he's human, he has needs, we want to fit that need? Or is it because, hey, he's innocent until proven guilty, let him have his strict vegan diet? While he was in Pennsylvania, he had his strict vegan diet. And while he is here at Latah County, he will still even have access to books and a telephone. So he still will be confined to four walls, right? But the sheriff said that Kohberger will be housed separately from other inmates and with additional security for the occasion. Skiles recently pegged the population of the facility as nearly 60% full, meaning they have room for more. They have room for more. That's what he is saying, and at least that's what I'm thinking, right? And so here they have the highest profile person to ever be incarcerated there, right? This is the broader agricultural region of the gem state known as the Palooza. Someone recently also mentioned the Palooza. And really what we want to know is he a danger to the other inmates? Are they going to be, hey, everyone wants their day of fame, right? A lot of people, let me not say everyone, let me watch how I use that word, but they're going to want, some people are like, hey, you're guilty because the cops say you're guilty. Is that going to be the same case here? What do you think about that? Is that going to be another particular incident where it's like, hey, we think you're guilty, so you are guilty. The cops say you're guilty, so guess what? You're guilty in our eyes. Is that going to be the case there? Because if so, guess what? Someone's going to try to get justice for this family. And here is Latah County Sheriff Richard Skiles, who is sharing this. And so, hey, we're going to take care of his vegan needs, his strict vegan diet. And the sheriff says he'll be housed separately from the other inmates with additional security for the occasion. You see, he's accused of doing the unthinkable to the University of Idaho students Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Canuto, and Ethan Chapin on November 13th of 2022. And he is a graduate student in the criminal justice program at Washington State University in Pullman, roughly 9 miles due west of Moscow. Literally, not far at all, right across the Washington State border. Literally, right across the Washington State border. As we are tracking this, we see that they are in Wyoming, it looks like, and they're still in Wyoming. Maybe from Wyoming, they will go directly into Idaho. Will they be passing Idaho to then reach into Washington? What do you think? Let me know in the comments what you think will happen with that. Let me know. Because literally, this is so close, but they also know that there's going to be so many reporters out there. So many reporters following the every move. Is that not a fair statement? You see, this grisly quadruple incident has rocked the normally quiet community, even unleashing an avalanche of national press and attention to the small town. Also, being that this is going to be the most prolific attention-gathering inmate they've ever had in this Latah County town. And so you have a lot of people. That's why they're like, I don't know. Will they stop right there in Idaho? Or will they go on to Washington? And we're going to learn more as we continue right here on this live. So make sure that you stay tuned in and share this if you think other people will get some value from this. But this little small town is generally a quiet community. But not anymore. Now people are locking their doors. They're carrying weapons with them. And so through an attorney, Bryan has expressed that, hey, I'm innocent in this, and I want to get back to Idaho as soon as I can, face these charges, and clear his name. That's what he believes he's going to be exonerated. His family believes he's going to be exonerated. Literally. We'll see though, right? We'll see. Because we found out that he was arrested on December 30th around 2 a.m. on Friday. Might have been closer to 3 a.m. in Pennsylvania time. At his parents' home in the Chestnut Hill Township of Pennsylvania. He waives his extradition back to Idaho during this emotional hearing where he even said to his family, I love you. Everyone is hurt by this. If he is guilty and he hasn't said anything yet, Maybe he's going to want to avoid his family having to sit through this. Maybe he's going to want to avoid this. And so with that also being said, he's probably going to be like, I will plead something to avoid having to deal with the death plea. So here he is. He stands accused of the 4 counts of first degree. First degree, murder. And 1 count of felony burglary for allegedly breaking into the off-campus home, 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, and doing the unthinkable to these 4 students. Doing what has really gripped the nation. And so, though we know he did this, he allegedly did this to 4 students, why were the 2 students in the basement left okay? I have a theory. It's just a theory. But there were some with defensive wounds, which means they put on a fight. And I believe that Enan Hirsch, I forget his last name, the neighbor who said, I realized later I might have heard a scream that came from that home, and I just wrote it off as they normally party anyway. They must still be partying. But that's what we found out later. Could this scream have been so loud it actually scared him off? Maybe he thought, oh my gosh, this is not going as smooth as I thought. Let me get out of here. Or maybe he thought there are 2 girls in the basement. They might have called 911 by now. Let me get out of here. Allegedly. Now, his initial court appearance in Latah County, it has not been scheduled yet. It hasn't been scheduled. Now, we do know that he will have his day in court really, really soon. Literally. Very soon. He waives his right to extradition. He's like, okay, I'm ready to get this over with. Let me go. I'm gone. Let's go. So that's where he signed his waiver of extradition just on yesterday, January 3rd. And you can see it right there. I, Bryan Kohberger, of my own free will, do voluntarily agree to return to the state of Idaho as a prisoner for the county of Monroe, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and for the purpose of answering the charges. Furthermore, I hereby waive all formality, and I am willing to return to the state of Idaho without governor's requisition or other papers necessary in such cases, and do exonerate the county of Monroe from any blame, compulsion, or interference in this connection. Says, hey, I'm ready. Let's go. We also find out after that court hearing on late Tuesday afternoon, 2nd Judicial District Magistrate Judge Megan Marshall issued a gag order in the case, which was stipulated by both the state and the defense. The order is key toward making sure the headline generating defendant receives a fair trial in the small community. Does that mean we will not see the affidavit? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. And so the order, it prohibits law enforcement attorneys and agents of either the defense or the state from communicating with the general public or the media. Moscow police, they have already said that they will no longer be sharing any comments anymore, not having any more press releases, not having any more regular updates for us. Nada. They're done per this gag order. And you can see Sheriff Richard Skiles, he put out this posting to all media members. We understand there are many questions from the media and the public regarding the way Mr. Kohberger will be housed when he arrives at the Latah County Jail. Mr. Kohberger will be evaluated by jail staff when he arrives, as does every other inmate who enters our facility. Mr. Kohberger's housing classification will be based on the evaluation given by jail staff. That makes total sense. And so the defendant's form of transport, it was shared that top investigators for the US Marshal earlier this week, they were supposed to be picking him up. And so we don't really know exactly how that all turned out, but the Marshals was like, we were supposed to be picking up and driving him straight there. But Pennsylvania State Police are now transporting him there. As you can see, they are still moving along. Literally still moving along. Now, we find out, as I reported yesterday, about one of the videos of the pullover. The one I shared yesterday was the second one of him being pulled over when him and his dad was on their 2,500 mile cross-country trip home. Again, almost 7. This was like a month after the homicide. A month after the heinous incident at 1122 King Road. And so now we find footage of it because the police released it. He was in the driver's seat next to his father, Michael, during the stop. And during that, you can even hear the conversations or between them. There's trucks going by. It's a little hard to hear, so you're going to want to try to listen up as much as you can on it. But here it is.
Hello. How you doing? How y'all doing today? Good, good. Take a look at your driver's license real quick if I could. See, he's right up on that van, man. You were right up on the back end of that van. Pulled you over for tailgating.
Pulled over for tailgating. Pulled over for tailgating too close to the van. In the second one, he was said to have been too close to the semi-truck. This time, tailgating too close to the van. Interesting.
Is this your car? Okay, cool. Where are you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU, and we're scanning.
You hear that? Where are you headed? And the son tries to throw something out there. The suspect tries to throw something out there, going to Thai food or something like that. The dad kind of says, we came from WSU. Like, in Indiana, not too sure why his thought process was WSU. Like, who's going to know what WSU is in Indianapolis area? Does the dad know a little more? I'm going to still say no, he does not know more. But he says, we're coming from WSU. Listen up.
What's WSU?
I go to university basically. It was incident that was occurring with the shooting incident. That is SWAT team and everything.
So I'm having a hard time hearing you because of the traffic. So you're coming from Washington State University?
Yeah.
And you're going where? Oh.
We're going to be going to Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're slightly punchy because we're driving for hours.
Hours, days.
Hours to drive. Well, almost a day.
Okay. And what did you say about some SWAT team thing? Or
Yeah, there was a mass shooting and everything.
Where?
Did you hear that? He's talking about the mass shooting event that happened at Pullman, Washington, at WSU, not too long after the incident, where a roommate was flashing a gun or something, and SWAT team had arrived there. Did a video on my channel. I'll put it in the description. Hopefully I don't forget. And I'll share that if you want to see. But they ended up killing the guy after a long standoff. But the SWAT team did have to arrive there. Why would he say that? Almost like maybe, to me, it's like WSU, you know, it was just in the news. We're driving back from there because he goes to WSU. Okay, I get why they're talking about that. Makes sense to me. You can see by the date of this body cam, December 15th, 2022 at 10:43. Indianapolis is, I believe, on Central Time. I used to live not far from there. And so I believe they used to be Eastern, and they used to not even move. It was weird. But I believe they're on Eastern. They might be on Central. Actually, it is Eastern because it's always an hour difference when I go back. So let's continue that.
Interesting.
Well, it's horrifying because he's going to university, you know what I mean?
So y'all work at the university there?
I actually do work there.
Oh,
PhD in criminal.
okay.
He says I work at the university. He doesn't quite say I'm a student at the university. He says I work at the university. And he is a teaching assistant. He is a teacher's assistant there. Right after this heinous event on November 13th, he went right back to teaching. Again, if all accounts are true, he was studying to do this. So I can see why he already had his mind made that he was going to go back to living a normal life and then do it again. Allegedly. Again, he gets his day in court. He's the suspect. We're talking about the suspect. We do want to be very careful how we share these things. I know. I get it.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that incident. Just yesterday, or?
This happened this morning. About an hour and a half ago, we're still wrapping it up for investigating. I'm not sure there's two shooters because they did shoot somebody.
Let's see.
And then we don't know about that actually. They were there, they were shooting out of the window or something.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. So do me a favor and don't follow too close, okay?
Oh,
All right. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Do me a favor, don't follow too close. Go. See ya. As soon as he gets there, let me see your license. He asked for his license. Were they on to anything? I'm thinking not. But to be pulled over again for pretty much the same thing, like, that's a pretty odd thing too, because he was pulled over twice, right? We do know that they were pulled over twice. So if you think about that, that's a strange thing as well. And Michael, the dad, he is quick to tell officers where they have traveled from, explaining that they left Washington State University to head home to Pennsylvania. Kohberger himself speaks calmly, like he's not worried about much, to officers explaining that they have been driving for hours after a SWAT team descended on WSU. But the time difference, actually this was December 15th, so let's go back and see exactly what day that was. I don't remember that off the top of my head. Let's see when that occurred. December 15th, it sounds like. So it looks like that happened around that same time. So they had already been on the road, but man, to get from Washington to Indianapolis on the 15th, that's a little harder to believe, I would say. But police respond to the incident near Washington State University on December 15th, 2022. This occurs, you can see the date there.
How y'all doing today?
December 15th, 2022. If this happened in Indianapolis from Washington, there's no way that happened on the same day. So my guess is he's telling the cop that we came from there. What's Washington State University? Well, that's a thing that we just found out happened today, right? Just happened hours ago. So now that makes sense to me as I dive a little deeper into that. But that's what he's referring to, is that incident that happened that same day. Now that I'm realizing that they both happened that same day, December 15th, when he gets pulled over. Where's that at? Washington State University, where that incident occurred today. So, but that incident was linked to a shooting on campus. And why did he bring that up? Well, it makes sense, because to put two and two together, like, where is it at? Well, did you hear about what happened today in Pullman, Washington? That's where it's at. So that totally makes sense. And his father, Michael, described that shooting as horrifying, just days before his son was arrested by another SWAT team at their home on something that is even more horrifying. That person who lost his life because he didn't just do as the cops said, and the cops felt threatened, he didn't hurt anyone. He didn't end up hurting his roommate or anything. He ended up causing himself to be hurt. That's something I noticed about the whole thing. And so he was literally pulled over twice within 9 minutes while driving along I-70 in December. That day, December 15th. And on both occasions, he was given a verbal warning, with Kohberger and his father both appearing more concerned on the second occasion than when on the first occasion. So I find that to be pretty interesting in and of itself as well. Right? I mean, what do you think about that? Let me know in the comments your thought process behind that. Do you think that Bryan's dad knew anything? Do you think? I do not think that he knew anything yet, but I wonder if he had any questions in his own mind about it. What do you think about that as well? Because honestly, I feel there had to be something in there that might have made him at least suspect it, right? Just something. But I could be totally way off base. Wouldn't be the first time, you know, because a lot of this is based on speculation, right? A lot of this is like, okay, especially since we don't know much. This is the second time they were pulled over. And you can see his face there like, what are you pulling me over now for? But I don't get the feeling of nervousness. I could be wrong. But I did not get the feeling of nervousness throughout this thing. But he had to be thinking in the back of his mind, holy mackerel, I'm getting pulled over again. They must be on to something. Did he then say, Dad, this could be the reason why? You know, on his way there, they make a stop, right? They're going from Pennsylvania back. What is his dad doing right now? Is he traveling back to Idaho right now? The family is said to they have their new attorney. We'll dive into that here in a minute. They have their new attorney. And the parents are said to have paid for this crime scene investigation, this new one, for the defense side. Now, again, we don't know if his family has money, doesn't have money. We don't know. We do not know. And so we do know that he is expected to land in Moscow later this evening, where reporters, they're already waiting for his arrival, as is his new attorney. The new attorney was seen recently spotted at the crime scene, scouring the crime scene. And we'll dive into her because she allegedly has she's well known. She even allegedly got someone else out of this same type of charge. We'll dive into that here in a second. But as they're making their way back, as you can see through this, it's getting closer and closer. Let me get a little bit closer in on that. Let's get a little bit closer on that. There we go. Nope, not that one. There we go. Let's get a little bit there. And there we go. A little bit closer view for you guys as it's traveling. That even looks better. There we go. Okay, so this is literally live tracking of the Pennsylvania, what it's called, the 2015 Pilatus PC-12, the PC-12, Pilatus PC-12, and it's owned by Pennsylvania State Police, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Literally, live tracking as it's going. The small plane, which is a 2015 single-engine Pilatus, I don't know. It's owned and operated by the Pennsylvania State Police. That's how we were able to track it and make sure we're tracking the right plane. Because we do know it's a 2015 single-engine Pilatus, and then you can go to different websites and actually track planes. If you want to track a loved one, you can do that. But this little plane, it only seats 11 people. And you know that people are swarming that airport. And we're going to try to keep you updated on it as well as it progresses if we're still on. If I lose things to talk about, well, then maybe not. But you can see this is an image from dailymail.com that was shared of people. They're there at the airport. They're there, literally waiting. And so Kohberger, he's agreed to speed up his extradition to Moscow. He claims he's innocent, so we'll find out. But his attorney, Ann Taylor, she's already sent a team of investigators to the crime scene at 1122 Kings Road in Idaho to start a crime scene reconstruction ahead of his return to Idaho. This happened like yesterday. And why would they do that? Well, it would actually make sense, wouldn't it? It would actually make sense that she would happen to be there. And this is said to be her. That didn't work. And I'll get you an image. I should have had one already pulled, but that didn't work. And so she is well known for helping someone else overcome this same type. This is an image from New York Post, Kevin C. Downs, for New York Post. But this is his new public attorney in Idaho. So sources say that Kootenai County Chief Public Defender Ann Taylor will be Kohberger's defense attorney for the case. And so she was spotted on Tuesday with a group of investigators at King Road in Moscow. And the group, of course, they declined to identify themselves, but they spent more than 5 hours in the house before leaving. Her office is located about 80 miles away from Moscow in Kordialin. Now, his arrest, he's already gone. Since his arrest, he's now had 2 public defenders. One in Pennsylvania, who was just his defender for the extradition. That is it. And during his first court hearing, that's when he agreed to be extradited. And so that's why he had that first public defender, Jason Labar. Jason said that Kohberger cannot afford a private attorney and will receive a public defender in Idaho. This is who it looks to be for his new case. How will that go? We don't know. Right now, by all accounts, he's been calm, cool, collective about this whole thing. Literally feeling like I'm going to be exonerated from this whole thing. I have nothing to worry about. His extradition hearing lasted about 10 minutes. Boom. Then he was transported back to the jail. And then 6:15 this morning, somewhere around there, he was off in that little plane, the PC-12. And so during his road trip, you know, him and his dad were pulled over and we get this footage and it's a little hard to hear, but did his dad know anything? I'm going to go out on a limb and say no, he did not. He did not know anything when it came to this whole case at all. I truly do believe that. And so he was basically in and out of his extradition hearing. Didn't take but 10 minutes and they were off. You know, and we find out that Bryan, he wanted to be an Army Ranger. We find this out because of a yearbook. Of course, a lot is coming out. He aspired to be an Army Ranger. He is even featured in his high school yearbook exercising in uniform. Literally. And really, when you stop and think about it, by all accounts, he wanted to do something in the criminology field. He wanted to do something in law. Being an Army Ranger is a great start. Why didn't he go that route? Did he start having these ucky feelings about who he wanted to be and where he was headed in his life? Why didn't he continue to pursue that? Well, that's another question that I'm sure that we may never know. But if you really stop and think about it, is that really far-fetched for the person that we are growing to learn about? Whether he's the killer or not, we don't really know until he gets his day in court. Then we'll have a much better idea. But until then, by what I am learning, I'm not surprised that he would have thought of going into that. I mean, he started changing. Some say he was kind of becoming a bully. Maybe Army Ranger to help discipline himself. We don't really know. We do not really know. Why would someone want to become an Army Ranger unless you wanted to go into the service, right? And so he's seen here doing some push-ups. I think this was an article from Daily Mail. I don't have the actual article, but he aspired to be an Army Ranger. He was even featured in his high school yearbook exercising in uniform, as you can see right here. In the 2011 Pleasant Valley High School yearbook, this is where the accused killer is pictured in a law enforcement class with other students doing push-ups. Literally doing push-ups. This actually might have been from Fox News. Sorry. Not Daily Mail, but Fox News. And you can even see on your screen, sophomore Bryan Kohberger, looks like they spelled it wrong, performs his daily push-ups as part of his law enforcement class. That's what the photo had captioned. Kohberger, looks like they spelled it wrong. That's what the SIC means there. That's their spelling. They just ran with it. Use the skills he learned to help him reach his goal to one day serve in the Army Rangers. And, you know, this yearbook, this is from like 2011, 2012, 2013, and it doesn't even show any student by the name Kohberger, so that's definitely him. They just misspelled it. Of course, the students writing that, they're not perfect. I mean, we make mistakes all the time, even when we're really great at spelling. Sometimes you're just going really fast. So, not a surprise. How many people have spelled his name Kohberger in doing their research? Kohberger with an OR, doing their research, right? They're doing their Google search, and they find that is what they're coming up with. You know, it is said that he was, a high school student in Pennsylvania he was bullied for his weight, and he has appeared to have slimmed down by his senior year. Literally. A former high school classmate, Sarah Healy, she says that, he used to be picked on by a group of girls who would throw things at him and tell him to go away, creep. We've seen that on TV. We've seen those in shows. We've seen that as ways that led people to go down the wrong route. And so it's said that he's bullied a lot, but we find that he's also done some bullying himself. He started bullying his friends, talking down to his friends. That's what has been alleged. Again, unless we really been there, we really don't know. Truth, right? Truth. And so with that also being said, let's stop and think about what direction he might have been going. This we just found out about. We don't really know what was entailed. I'm telling you, even by that being pulled over by the cops, I just feel like he was kind of calm. Cops look for any sign of the way you're answering. Are you speaking fast? Do you seem nervous? What's going on the way you're talking? Right? And so, doesn't sound like he, was worried about. Literally, wraps up his semester at school. Then him and his father are traveling cross country 2,500 miles, get pulled over twice, and I'm okay. I get pulled over for driving too close, and then I get pulled over again for driving too close. Were they pulled over twice for any particular reason around this case? Let's get body cam footage to make sure it's the right guy that we are looking for. We don't know. I'm just speculating. Because he was in the white Hyundai Elantra, him and his dad. They were in the same car they were looking all over for it. Cops pull over a white Hyundai Elantra. December 15th, it's already been more than 4 weeks since the incident occurred. Everyone was looking for this thing. How come that didn't raise red flags? Maybe it did and we don't know. I don't know. But here they were in that white Hyundai Elantra, the same car model that police said was spotted near the crime scene. Literally. The same one that the gas station attendant got on camera. Now, let's be real. Not everyone is stuck to these stories like this the way we are. So, the guy didn't even hear about the WSU Pullman incident, right? The cop, that same day. I did a story on it the same day. Maybe the same day or later that day. Because I wanted a report that is not associated with this incident. And so, gas station attendant gets this, sends it into law enforcement. I'm guessing some of this helped. Because we were flashing this everywhere. They're even still asking if you have any tips around this vehicle or around Bryan Kohberger, send it in. Now, he's en route, on his way to have his day in court, let's say. And as you can see, this is live tracking of his plane. When he touched down in Idaho, it's a big deal because then the real process begins. The first process was we gotta find out who did this to these 4 kids. Now that there's a suspect, the second real process begins. If he is the person, he needs to pay for what he has done. Using DNA that was left at the crime scene is how they caught up to him. They were able to tie him to a relative who submitted a DNA sample to a public database. If you have not seen that video, I did a whole video on how they find that forensic DNA, how they track. I think it's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Don't you think? Like, wow. And so I think it's really, really interesting the way they can find things. Right? I find it very interesting. One investigative reporter had put this on Twitter, Alexandra Dugan. According to the Latah County clerk, the affidavit in Bryan Kohberger case will be released after his initial hearing. Will he have a hearing tonight or will he have a hearing tomorrow? That's just my question. Likely due to formally reading the charges first. She continues, this is interesting to hear since the Latah County prosecutor said the warrant must come back to the court first and the PCA probable cause affidavit will be released. Regardless, the clerk had us give her our email, which she said they may send out the PCA that way in a mass email. How can I give them my email? Last thing I want is someone that this should be made public and they're putting their tags all over it, their stamps like this is mine. If you pay for it, I totally get it. You deserve to put your watermark on it. But some of these people are putting watermarks on this on things that rightfully is made public. I don't know. What do you think on that? Let me know in the comments. But I would like to get on that email if I could. Hey, if you guys have any strings you can pull, say send it to deeptruecrime@gmail. And Alexandra, she continues, okay, we got an update from the clerk. They have to have the warrant in their possession to unseal the PCA for Bryan. But that usually takes place around the same time a hearing does. Lots going on, y'all. You are not kidding at all. You're not kidding at all. And so now, as we see, making his way closer to Idaho, and really, I think more people want to know what's in that affidavit more than anything else. They could care less about the flight. They want to know what's in that affidavit. What do you have on him? Right? Literally. And we find out that the entire airport was evacuated so that the Idaho suspect, Bryan Kohberger, could relieve himself. That's a new report that's come out. Because we know that he stopped in Champaign, Illinois, and the airport, we didn't know this, I'm just finding this out as I'm reporting on it, was evacuated so that he can relieve himself. That's according to a report. Here he was in shackles. The former criminology doctoral student was led from a private jet into a flight star in Champaign around 11 a.m. this morning. That's what I told you. It was one of his fuel stops as well. At least 3 armed officers were with him. At least 3 armed officers were literally with him. And with that, we don't really know, like, was anyone worried? I honestly don't think he's going. He believes he is going to get away. I think he thinks he's going to beat the system. If he has nothing to hide, he definitely should be feeling like that. If he has nothing to hide, he did nothing wrong, yeah, he should definitely be okay, right? If you have nothing to hide, why did he lawyer up right away though, right? After 10 minutes about, he lawyered up. First he says, I don't need counsel, then he lawyers up. Hey, if you have nothing to hide, why are you lawyering up? But I will say, let me get your attention here because this is a controversial thought. You also have to be careful with what law enforcement is throwing at you. Sometimes an innocent person should lawyer up. Or maybe all the time, I don't even know. You never know what they're going to use against you that you just put yourself in a bad hole. I don't know. But I feel like sometimes law enforcement, they're going to just dig. They'll have you going. You'll go round and round in circles and it's like, what do you do? because we know that some innocent people have been wrongfully committed, right? Found guilty. They've been wrongfully found guilty in ways, things like that. It's happened multiple times. I also do believe that some people who are guilty are off. So it's like it's a double. I don't know what's right, what's wrong. Truth is, you do have 12 human beings dictating what happens in your life. And you can have a defense. You can have a defense that is so good, or a prosecutor that is so good that it helps the jury make their decision. And so they had 3 armed officers accompany him. Is it because that he was a threat, or is it because what if someone tries to hurt him? Because let's be real, I don't think he's safe. I do not think he is safe. TMZ had shared this image where he made a pit stop in Illinois on his extradition trip to Idaho. You mean to tell me they don't have toilet bowls on the plane? Even a small commuter plane? I don't know. I've never been on them, so I can't even say much, right? But now he's being extradited to the northwestern city to appear in court to answer for his charges. And that's really all we know until that affidavit when it comes to that. But who paid for this reconstruction expert? Who paid for that? The defense team has hired a veteran Washington State crime scene reconstruction expert. That's what we have found out. The owner and operator of Noedel Scientific. But who paid for that? I'm curious on that as well. I mean, literally, if his parents don't have money, who paid for that? Not that it really matters other than, okay, why? But it makes sense, really. You can see the website Noedel Scientific Forensic Consultation and Training. The expert Matthew Noedel, who owns this, I guess, that's his last name and the name of the business, and his team spent 5 hours inside the home on 1122 King Road. Now, while Kohberger, he faced the Pennsylvania judge, Noedel's team was going through the 3-story house and the perimeter of the property, which had earlier been combed for evidence by police forensic teams. And now the defense had hired someone to go inside that home. I found that very interesting. Really? Like, okay, I thought we did everything we needed to do, but no, let's get our own people in there. Really, right? Is that not a fair statement? Let's get our own people in there because we want to do our own investigation for our client. But who paid for it? Mom and dad have said they could to not be able to afford a private attorney. So who paid for this thing, right? That's my thought process. Here you see forensic expert Matthew Noedel, the owner and operator of Noedel Scientific. He claims more than 30 years of experience in the field. This image is by Kevin C. Downs for New York Post. And, you know, with 30 years experience in the field, he provides 2D and 3D models of his findings when called to testify as an expert in court. So they're already getting their defense prepared. She's already going to work for him, and he hasn't even landed in Idaho yet. Does that mean that she has seen the affidavit? Does that mean that? I mean, I think that's a fair statement, right? But it hasn't. It's supposed to not have been released. So literally, where could they have caught that at? Right? And so, according to Noedel, the evaluation and examination of bloodstains at crime scenes is often overlooked and misunderstood. Bloodstains can exist on clothing, walls, hidden behind baseboards or under carpets. Do not underestimate the significance of blood stains. That's what he is sharing. That's his thought process. Like, do not underestimate this stuff. Right? I mean, okay, I'm not underestimating it. I just want to know, hey, do they have the right guy? The last thing we want is the wrong person to be paying for such a crime. But they tied DNA to him back to the crime scene. Let's be real. That's damaging. Literally, that's damaging. Is that not a fair statement? To me, that's going to literally be something to overcome. But this guy, Noah Dell, he could be there to say, this is not the right DNA. This is the wrong DNA. If he's saying that he had a relationship, this could be I don't know. I'm just speculating, my friends. But now that we have a gag order, you cannot expect anything from the Moscow police, nothing from the legal teams. They're not going to be speaking. The gag order bars anyone linked to the case from talking about it. It does not mean that if this affidavit is released, that we can't talk about it. The defense cannot talk about it. The prosecutor cannot talk about it. Anyone who is associated to this case, any lawyer's assistants, whoever does all the whatever. If you ever watch that show, How to Get Away with, what? They have all the assistants. Those people cannot, if there was a gag order, they cannot talk about it at all. So no one linked to this case can talk about it. And Latah County prosecutor Bill Thompson, he said that once he gets here, he'll have an initial appearance with our magistrate. And that is literally something that we want right away, because we want to find out, do you have the right guy? Are we on the right track? Do you really have enough evidence on this guy that it's going to stick? There's a reason why we follow this stuff, right? We love playing online detectives. We love following this stuff. We love to see how they come to a conclusion. Literally, we love to see how they come to a conclusion in these type of events. Right? You're probably like me. You want justice for these 4 innocent individuals taken from this world way too soon by someone so selfish that he decided to do the unthinkable. Allegedly, he is the suspect in this. He is going to get his day in court, and from there, we will know more. But once he arrives in Idaho, the state law will allow the court to unseal the probable cause affidavit, something something which the victims' families have been keen to see. They want to know, what is his connection to these 4 teenagers. He will need to appear in court before any of that can happen, when he faces the 4 counts of murder and 1 count of felony burglary. And so here he is. He was extradited back to this Idaho to deal with what he is going to be in for a long ride with. And we find out about this chilling police stop from August of 2022. August 2022, he was pulled over. Now, remind you that we did find out he most likely was the stalker that Kaylee has been talking about for a while. But then we find out that he was actually pulled over by the police a mile, 1.7 miles away from the crime scene. That is a chilling fact. So here he is. He's on his way back to Moscow to face this. In the meantime, we find out that he was pulled over in August. Wow. Not far from 1122 Kings Road in his white Hyundai Elantra. Literally, in his white Hyundai Elantra. And so you can see here, even where this Laydown County Sheriff Idaho uniform citation that he received, which also had his license plate on it. You can see where he was pulled over, West Pullman Road and Farm Road in Moscow, Idaho, for not wearing a seat belt. Literally, not far from the crime scene. Blows my mind. Was that one of his stalking moments? He did receive a citation, but was that one of his stalking moments? This gives me chills. Literally gives me chills to know that he was stopped minutes from the victim's home, pulled over by the police late at night. Remember, he also had a neighbor who said that he was gone all night. He did not get home till late on a regular basis. Here we have another incident where we find out, yes, he was out. He was actually receiving a citation late at night. Wow. So he gets this citation from Layton County Sheriff's Office, and it revealed that he was stopped by police on August 21st for failing to wear a seatbelt. What's chilling about this is that it was late at night near the crime scene. You see, the police stop took place at around 11:40 p.m. at the intersection of West Pullman Road and Farm Road in Moscow. It is not clear what he was doing in the area at that time, but 11:40 p.m., oh my gosh, it gives me some chills. What was he doing in that area? Truth is, yes, it might not be far from shopping centers, but at 11:40 p.m., not far, just 1.7 miles, a 5-minute drive from the home on King Road, where the 4 young students had their lives taken from them. And at this same time, he's driving the white Hyundai Elantra. How did they not look through everything in the system? His DNA wasn't in the system, but a white Elantra wasn't in the system? I'm guessing they probably did see this and said, we want to talk to this person as well. I could be wrong, because they were tracking everything they can around this. It might very well be like, hey, we saw that there was a citation. We thought we would look into it, and we found something that was kind of odd. I don't know. Here we have this white Hyundai Elantra, which is the center of this investigation at this time, which also helped ultimately lead to his arrest. Wow, right? This case was closed in September, as you can see on this. It was literally closed on September 8th, 2022. To me, wow. Of course, officials, now they're even going to talk even less because of the gag order, but we haven't heard much about this. But was he on his way back home? Because he lived 15 minutes. He lived 15 minutes from the crime scene. Where was he going? Was he heading back home? That's a thought on its own. Personally, in my opinion, that's a thought on its own. Where was he headed when that happened? Was he going back home? Did he already look? Was he standing on the side? We don't know. If we have any updates that he's landing, getting close, any images, while we are still live, we will definitely share. So you will not be missing a beat. If you're tuning in to see if he lands or whatever, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. My friends, if you are new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Support the efforts. My goal is not about me. My goal is to get justice for the victims. My goal is to be a voice for you, to let you know this is what could go wrong in this crazy world we live in. Be aware, be careful, be safe. Please, if that sounds like something you want to support and follow and subscribe to, hit that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, because at the end of the day, I want to do this for my fellow followers. I want to do this for our victims who can no longer speak for themselves. My friends, at the end of the day, we all want justice for Idaho 4, right? And so, truth is, it's only a matter of time before we find out. Is this the guy? Do you have the right guy? He was literally seen mouthing, "I love you," to his family, who is said to be in shock over this. Literally. If he loves his family, does he really want to put them through a trial? His family is said to have been through 2 bankruptcies. How much money do they have? Are they going to get a second mortgage out to help pay for his attorney, to help pay for this crime scene reenactment? You know, and when you think about it, why do cases like this take a long time to solve? Right? Because if you think about it, the investigators in this Moscow Police Department case, they were coming under increased pressure to solve this. Literally, they were coming under increasing pressure to solve this case. And as it got closer and closer to 7 weeks, people were losing their cool. They were losing their faith. And all along, Moscow police, they knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing. See, almost 7 weeks had passed between November 13th and the early morning raid on December 30th, when the suspect was finally taken into custody. But while it is perfectly understandable that we want a quick resolution, especially in such a shocking event like this, we cannot always expect it. Truth is, it takes a while. It could take years. This could be a years in progress case. Literally. Is that not a fair statement? And truth is, the more a crime and crime scene has going on, like the case of 4 students and one of the most horrific crime scenes ever seen by the people in that area, you best believe this could take a while. This could take a while. There's so many elements to this that police need to work through every single moment, every single tip, every single call-in, every single email, every single video, every single witness, every single interview that needs to be done, all the surveillance footage they have to look for, all the, cross-referencing all the information that they receive from one to another. They're going to interview the family over and over. You best believe that it takes a long time. But when you think about his movements, Bryan's movement, we know this is the home that he was finally caught up to in December 30th. But on November 13th, Bryan is accused of doing the unthinkable to Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and her boyfriend Ethan, who did not live there. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And my guess is he was wanting to be a hero, look out for the girls, went out there, and was faced with the perp. Is it our suspect? We don't know. But from November 13th to early December, Mr. Kohberger, he stayed in Pullman, 10 minutes from the crime scene, and he continued with his studies at Washington State University, and he continued being a teaching assistant. And so early December, his father travels to meet him in Washington, and the father and son begin their 2,500 cross-country mile trip, drive back to Pennsylvania where they live. That's where he's from. December 15th, the two men are pulled over by police twice. Twice. By an Indiana State police officer. Both times said to be following too closely. And then, both him and his father, somewhere in mid-December, they arrive at the home in the Poconos Mountains. December 30th, he's arrested at his family home on those 4 counts of first degree and 1 count of burglary. January 3rd, he appears in Monroe County Court in Pennsylvania for his extradition hearing. And this morning, he starts his journey back to Idaho. That is a quick timeline of Bryan Kohberger's movements as we know it. What we don't know is, did he know any of them? Is that something that has occurred? Was he stalking them on the night that he got that ticket in August? That to me is very, very interesting. But his parents hiring a crime scene reconstruction expert? We don't know their financial situation, so I'm not going to act like I do. I am not going to act like I do. And let's be real. We've got a lot of rumors that we continue to have to debunk. And truth is, I want to go back to that one thing. I did not report on it because I knew it was false, and now I want to share with you the proof that it was truly false. You had that one lady who was an inmate who had just left, and she was interviewed by someone at Daily Mail, and so they published it as exclusive. One account, they went as this was gospel, and they wrote about it. About him doing some nasty, crazy, ugly stuff that sometimes inmates do that are really kind of losing it. But when I saw that, I said, from everything I'm learning about this guy, that doesn't sound like him. I was actually blown away that some popular YouTubers did that. One who was recently on even some well-known media outlets. I'm like, bruh, are you buying that? And it's easy to do a video and say, I don't know if it's true, but this is what we're hearing. I knew it wasn't true. It was a no-brainer if you ask me. But to back it up, the Pennsylvania Correctional Facilities warden, he says that Bryan was a model prisoner. Literally, a model prisoner. The warden of Monroe County Correctional Facility told officials that the maximum status prisoner has been quiet, which means he was a maximum status prisoner at their facility. And that he has been quiet and he's been following directions. He didn't give anyone any problems. That's what they said. He literally was held in a cell, monitored by an officer all the time. And so I knew right away that story that came out was not true at all. It did not fit his MO. It did not fit who we are learning this guy is. Because when you dive into true crime, you're also diving into the perp. What was he thinking? What was his process? And as we know, he did a survey. He was doing a project. He was literally trying to get in the mind of a criminal. He literally has a plan. Yep, they're on to me. Now let me put that plan into place. That's my thought process. What do you think about that? I believe she was lying. I believe this guy is very smart. Literally. That's my thought process on this. His dad, he explained that, the son's what was described as punchy behavior during the traffic stop. That traffic stop. Yeah, the one we just showed you. Body cam footage from the December traffic stop in Indiana with his dad and Bryan in there heading back to Pennsylvania. It shows that his father describing the 28-year-old as punchy to an officer. I don't know what he really means by that, but let's continue a little bit. Because we only found out about this body cam video yesterday. And after explaining that the father and son were driving from Washington State University, where Kohberger was the PhD student, the dad in the passenger seat, as we've seen, he shares that, he's sharing why he felt that, let me bring up the thing here, the travel, where they at. He shares why his son was acting like that, right? Because as we know, he was pulled over. He was pulled over in Indiana on their way. And so, really, when you think about it, I would have thought he was a little more scary, right? A little more out of the, oh my gosh, why are they pulling me over stage? Literally. That would be my particular thought process. What do you think about that? Right? Truth is, we don't really know. Bryan, we don't know what his thought process was when he was a young kid. We don't know what his thought process was that would have ever led someone down this road at all. Is that not a fair statement? Is that not a fair statement? We do not know what could lead a person to do this. But what we do know is that he was pulled over. His dad says he was a little slightly punchy because they've been driving for hours and hours. Again, this was the day of that SWAT incident. Kohberger, he was driving. And he was left off. They gave him just a verbal warning. And so his dad is saying, my son was acting like that because he was tired. They've been in the road for so long. There's a statement that said, at the time of this stop, there was no information available on a suspect for the crime in Idaho. Did you hear that? There was no information available on a suspect for the crime in Idaho. Now, that is Indiana State Police, this is their statement. My thought process is everyone was looking for this white Hyundai Elantra that you pulled over, and it was over a month since this happened. I guess in all fairness, we didn't find out about the white car until later. When did we find out about that? That's a fair statement too. We didn't find out about that white car probably because, and they continue, to include identifying information on or any specific information related to the license plate, state, or number of the white Hyundai Elantra, which was being reported in the media to have been seen in or around where the crime occurred. So they did know about a white Hyundai Elantra, but they didn't know about a license plate. Again, we don't know if this white Hyundai Elantra, when they put it in the system, if they did on September 8th, if it didn't raise any red flags for anyone who's been tracking this stuff. Right? And so, as soon as he's done with school, him and his dad, it looks like they planned this trip for a while. They were doing a father-son thing. The dad even bragged a little bit about that to the mechanic, right? He literally bragged about, like, hey, yep, I picked up my son, I flew into Washington, and I drove back. We're having a special bond. That's basically kind of how I imagine that conversation kind of went. But the maintenance, the mechanic at the store, at the place where he took his car in for work, whatever it was, that's what he shared. That the dad was bragging. That's how he shared it, as the dad was bragging. And I'm sure it's more like a proud moment than anything. That's my thought process. But, when asked, like, why was your son acting like that? It was more like, hey, we were tired. We've been on the road a long time. Right? And so that would make sense as well. But why did he switch license plates after the incident? You see, that's what we also found out as well, that he switched license plates. I find that very interesting by itself, because we don't really know, like, was he now, like, hey, someone might have my license plates, I better do something about it, right? We don't, why would he do that? What do you think? Do you think there's a reason behind him doing that? I bet you there was, to be honest with you, because truth is, we don't really know, other than like, okay, little by little, we're finding out more and more and more. And when we do find out, what are we going to find out? There are preparations at the Pullman Moscow airport, which is what he is expecting to be pulling in to the Pullman Moscow airport. So let's see what's going on there. Pullman Moscow airport. Okay. So they're probably not too far from landing, peeps. They're probably not too far from landing in their next destination, which is where the whole real process will begin for this suspect in the Idaho stalker killings. And really, right now, it's going to be hard for him to get out of that. But what we want to know is why. But why did he switch his license plates as well? So it showed that he changed his license plates just a few days after the crime was committed. For years, the Hyundai Elantra that Kohberger was driving was registered in Pennsylvania, according to a Newsweek review of Carfax documents. Now, Kohberger, he was pulled over in August, as I shared, with the Latah County Sheriff's Office, and the citation shows the 2015 Hyundai Elantra, right? And that's exactly what I was showing you a little earlier about the license plate that it showed him having on his vehicle. And then he changes it. It was changed on November 18th, 5 days after the students were unalived. Carfax docs show that the registration was changed from Pennsylvania, where his parents live, to Washington on November 18th, and a Newsweek public records request with the Washington State Department of Licensing showed that the license plates on the white Hyundai Elantra were changed on November 19th. Wow, wow, wow. Why else would that need to be changed other than the fact that there was something to be said about that? Not fair? Why else would he need to be changing it? But the flip side is, let's play devil's advocate, if that's what you want to call it. When you move to a new state, if it becomes your permanent residence, you have so long that you must change it out. He moved there to get ready for his fall semester, so he moved there, I think, June or something like that, is what it said, June 5th. So he moves there, and then it's not even been a year, but shortly after that, again, that should have also been in the system for law enforcement to catch up to in order to have this. Literally. Is that not a fair statement? I would think. But with that also being said, is there any other reason for him to change the license plates? Outside of he wants to hide it because of this, or I live in this state, I need to get Washington license plates. Which is it? What do you think? Which is it when it comes to that? That's my thought process on it. But is he back in Idaho yet? He is almost there. He's actually almost ready to land, people. As you can see right now, he is literally, it's the northern side, so might be a little bit more movement, maybe a little further north. I don't know. I'm not, But I do not think we will be finding any affidavit at all today. At all. Because number one, it's already closed where he would be having to fight, to be facing a judge, a magistrate, or whatever they call it. But if it is too late for that, then will tomorrow morning be the day? Will tomorrow morning be the time that we find out about it, right? Right? Because a lot of us are literally, what do they have? What do they have? What do they have? Right on him. We don't really know until we get to see that affidavit. And we're almost wrapping it up here as they get closer to that. But, why? Why and what is next? What is next for Bryan Kohberger? This guy has been trending all day. All day. Generally, when something is trending on Google, it might be trending for a few hours and then it changes. Bryan Kohberger has been trending literally all day on Google. Number 2 is what I've seen him all day trending it at. And Kevin McCarthy or someone was number 1. But that is a sign of how big this story is. Will Ann Taylor be able to get him off? She's done it before. She's done it before. Literally. So, with that being said, how good is she? Generally, a public defender doesn't cost as much. Is that a fair statement? I don't know. I do not know. She famously overturned a conviction. Literally. She famously overturned a conviction at one time. But when you think about it, doesn't mean she's going to overcome everyone, right? Doesn't mean that, I don't know what it means. It means that she's probably good at a job, though, if she was able to get someone off or get it to be overturned. Let's make sure I'm correcting myself there because I'm sure others will. But is that what it is? That she might be that good? This is the attorney representing the suspect, Bryan Kohberger. She is the Kootenai County Public Defender who previously overturned a murder conviction after catching out. She caught a false statement from an Idaho police officer. She's already sent a team of investigators to the house to do the crime scene reconstruction. And she's already on this. That almost tells me she's pretty good at this if she's already on this, right? And she's worked for the Kootenai County Public Defender's Office since 2004. And she was given the top job in 2017 after John Adams retired. She worked on the case of Jonathan Ellington, who was accused of using his car to run over a woman in a road rage incident. Ellington, who was 45 at the time, was convicted and sentenced to 25 years for that crime before having it overturned because of an Idaho police officer's false testimony. False. This is what I mean. Sometimes the wrong person can be held accountable for something they didn't do. Literally, I know firsthand that happens. And it's happened. And it will happen again. Truth is, at the time, Taylor said that Rise was pivotal in the verdict. That is exactly what Taylor said. Ann Taylor, the person who's defending. She said that, before having it overturned because of the Idaho police's officers' false testimony. And Ann said that Rise was pivotal in the verdict of Ellington, adding that he had a presence in the courtroom. Fred Rice was accused of lying to the court in relation to the incident, with Taylor representing Ellington throughout. He was later reconvicted of the charges during a second trial after the Supreme Court ruled that Rice lied on the stand. That's what was shared. Literally, that was shared. And with that also, it's like that goes back to what I just said. Sometimes the wrong person gets in trouble for something they didn't do. But maybe he did do it, but that lie helped get him out of it. That could very well be. Ann Taylor, she has been in this field for a long time. So when Fred Rice does that, he's accused of lying to the court in relation to that incident. He was later reconvicted of the charges during a second trial, after the Supreme Court ruled that Rice lied on the stand. So he was still later convicted, but that lie made it happen again. And you look at this airport, it has, I believe, WSU, and because that's in Pullman, and University of Idaho Vandals. Pullman Moscow Regional Airport. Literally, that's where everyone is waiting right now. Right now. And Ann Taylor, she graduated from the University of Idaho. So, does that give her a conflict of interest? This is where all 4 victims were studying. She graduated with a bachelor's degree in political science and a master's degree in public admin. I don't think it makes her biased by any means. And so she went on to get a doctorate from the same establishment before practicing law at federal, state, and local levels. So she's very well known in this field. She serves on the board of the Idaho Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers and is death pen certified in Idaho. Man, I think he does have a top-notch attorney and doesn't even have to pay for it. I could be wrong. But when she was speaking, when she took the job as chief public defender, she said, it's such necessary work. It's important to make sure constitutional rights apply to everybody. You help people who are facing horrible times. I love the work. Man, I'm liking her. At least her heart's in the right place. I hope she's like, if he's guilty, I want him to pay as well. I hope she wants the guilty party to be charged as well. Of course, she's not made any comments. She's not. And now that there's a gag order, she can't even speak. Right? And so her team spent some time there taking video footage inside and outside the property. But as I mentioned yesterday, crime scene reconstruction analysts remained after the other investigators left the property. And that's where we find out is like, who's paying for this? Because it is unusual for defense attorneys paid by the state to create a reconstruction of the crime scene. So who's paying for this? Well, looks like the Kohberger's parents, they have insisted that they don't have money for a private attorney, but they may have paid for this. I find that very interesting on its own. They're said to maybe not really have funds. So we don't really know where the money's coming from for this. Is that not a fair statement? And so here he is, after being arrested, he's on his way back to Idaho. And now he can face what they are saying he has done to these 4 young kids. Taken from this world way too soon. And now we want to know why, how, what's the connection, why did he do this? And there's going to be a lot we will not know. Let's be honest about that as well, my friends. There's going to be a lot we will not know. He will not open up. He will not be talking at all. I guarantee you that. I guarantee you he will not be sharing if he is guilty, unless he does interviews later on. And that could very well be a strong possibility, right? Strong possibility that he will later be speaking up. But, will we find out that his infatuation with serial killers had something to do with this? His studying of psychology, his studying of forensics, his projects where he was interviewing cons and former criminals and criminals, like he was trying to interview anyone. Now he is that person, allegedly. But why? Why would he be said to have done this if they don't have really strong evidence against him? Is that not a fair statement? I think there's a strong possibility they have the right person. Without a doubt, they have the right person. That's my thought process. What do you think? Do you think they have the right person? Let me know in the comments what you think. My friends, they are about to land. Let's see if we can find anything out before I close this out. So, really, please, if you're a person of prayer, please pray that the family finds justice. Please pray that there is more information that we will find out. You know, but I am wondering if the FBI, who was tracking him and trailing him, because we found out, see, that's why I don't understand. If, because this is too odd with the 2 pullovers in Indiana. Way too odd. With 2 pullovers back to back within minutes of each other. That to me is impossible not to have a reason for that. Is that not true? Like, why would they be pulled over 2 times if that's not the case? What do you think? Literally, what do you think? Do you think those 2 pullovers, with those 2 pullovers, there was something to do with it? The FBI might have said something? Because according to Fox News, FBI directed Indiana police to pull over Bryan Kohberger, to look for any images of his hands. I find that pretty interesting. Do you think that's true? Do you think that's true? That's what Fox News is sharing. That the FBI instructed it. My gosh, if he was pulled over 2 times, 9 minutes apart, I'm going to say that sounds very true. They wanted the surveillance team, requested them to be pulled over. That has to have some credibility behind it. They were seeking video images of Kohberger as well as his hands. That's big news right there. FBI requested that Indiana State Police pull him over for that reason. That's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Not surprising so much, though, when you really stop and think about it, because if they were on his trail, they wanted to catch up to him. They wanted to see. So body cam, obviously, one guy might not have done his job very well, and that's why they did it the second time. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. What happened that he would have to be pulled over again? What do you think? That definitely seems plausible. You see, law enforcement source, they said that investigators were still building their case on December 15th to make an arrest. But they added that genealogy played a major role in catching him. But then they wanted to get a picture of his face? That's a little interesting. Is it not a fair statement? I would think that's a pretty interesting thing, really. Right?
Good. Take a look at your driver's license real quick if I could.
Soon as he gets there, he says, take a look at your driver's license, if I can. Like,
right
that right there says, I need to take a look at what driver's license I'm looking at. But now we find out that the FBI, their surveillance team, tracked the quadruple suspect and his father on a cross-country road trip.
Well, we coming from
When did they get the DNA to match it?
And we're scanning.
Well, looks like they might have gotten it through family. Interesting. So now we find out that the FBI directed the Indiana police to pull over Bryan Kohberger. Wow. But not surprising, because they have been on to this guy. Now that makes me think they had his name in the system before December 15th. Remember, I've said it multiple times I'm wondering, did it turn yellow? Was that plane always yellow? Or is that where they're landing? But I've said it all along. They just said we haven't named any suspects. They didn't say we don't have suspects. We haven't named a suspect. I think I learned even more on why they have to be so hush-hush about a person of interest, about a suspect. Because that makes them do something if they're like, oh, we got a suspect. We know who did it. We're on his trail. Right? Looks like the altitude might be dropping down to 8,000 feet. So it looks like they might be landing. We will be following, as you know. Let's see, since we're still on. We have this scene at the airport. Someone sharing this. You can see, like, there's a lot of people there waiting his arrival. Is that a gas tank to fill it back up and then let the flight go back? Or, yeah, I'm just guessing. But you can see right here where it's like, okay, they're a really big. They're really setting this up to be a big deal. You know why? Because it is a big deal. Literally, it's a big deal. And he's almost there. You can see right there. Let's see if there's anything else going on. Looks like they're still around. Looks like it's still in the green. But that was a video from Shanley Shapainter. Shanley Shapainter. And she puts it as preparations at the Pullman Moscow airport for his arrival, which should be happening very soon. Literally. Brian Enton's at the airport. So many people are waiting for him. They're waiting. They're following. They're tracking. They're literally. And so it looks like the wheels are about to be down. They're almost there. They're almost there. And so this is, when you think about it, I want to go back to that license plate thing. Because truth is, I still want to know, like, he had to do it for that reason. Granted, most people wait a while, and some people do it right away. But when he changed his license plate, that had to be something. According to a public records request, he transferred the Pennsylvania title to a Washington title on November 18th. Which means that a Pennsylvania license plate was tied to it at the time on November 13th. Right? And so then he transferred the title of the Elantra from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, which was issued on April 20th of this year, to Whitman County, Washington on November 18th. What is that, 7 months? Something like that? Wow. Like, I cannot help but feel like that has something to do with it. Because of the crime that he committed, he literally was doing it. Now it's yellow, which means he's down around 4,000 to 6,000 feet. So he is almost touching ground. Literally. He is not there yet, but he's about to be. Literally. Wow. So it's yellow once it gets into the orange, and it's almost there. It is almost there. And truth is, when you really think about it, let's share this as well. So let's see if he's scheduled for anything for tomorrow yet. Let's see here. So the 2nd Judicial District, Latah County, for January 5th, 2023. So for tomorrow, this is what's on. Let's see. Do we see his name anywhere? Do not see his name. So nothing at 10. Those are all the ones at 10. I don't see his name on there yet. I don't think. That is up through 1:30 for tomorrow. That's what's scheduled. But what would that mean? What would it mean? What will happen at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m.? Maybe they don't want it on there because of all the attention. Maybe they just haven't scheduled it yet. Right? Maybe they just haven't scheduled it. Let me go back to the flight. Maybe they just haven't scheduled it yet, but right now it doesn't show that it's on there. So they have to be. We're about to see some stuff coming out right now. But to find out that the police, were the FBI is the reason for the drop, for the pullovers, I think that's amazing. They were literally, that's why I'm wondering, like, how do you get pulled over twice close to each other for the same thing? Right? No other arrests are said to be happening around this, so why is that? Well, could it be that he just did it by himself? Could it be? Well, it's very plausible. I truly do believe that he acted alone inside the home. It looks like, you see the plane? The plane is doing something funky there. But I don't see orange yet. So what's that about? I'm new at following this, so I'm not going to act like I'm great at understanding these things at all. But we now know together, if you're on here together, thank you for joining me. But we now know that FBI might have caused that. FBI might have said, stop them, we need images, we want to know who's in there. Was it for to find was it to find any scratches or marks as the article had shared? Very well could be. But when was it that they actually had reason to arrest him? We won't know, but tying him to DNA, I think, is a big deal. I really do. But I also think they're going to need more. Literally, they're going to need more. Looks like playing with Kohberger now on final approach. That's what Brian Enton has shared. See if he's gotten any images or anything. Let's see. I can almost, the question keeps coming up. Will anything be shared? Let's see what's going on here. Will anything of the affidavit be shared tonight? I can almost bet my bottom dollar we ain't going to see anything tonight. No one's open. Someone needs to serve him. He needs to be served with something if that's going to happen, right? Not a fair statement? So I personally think that we will be finding out more. Do you think tomorrow, though? I don't know about tomorrow. I do not know about tomorrow. And really, as we find out more, is there the possibility that he's innocent? Is there a possibility that he's innocent? What do you think? Truth is, I'm a big believer that we should get the right person, not the wrong person. I'm also a big believer that justice needs to be served. I'm still a little torn between the the death pen and things like that. But I also can see why. Let me ask you guys, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think there's any truth about marks being on him in the car when he's pulled over? Which is the purpose of the pullover, right? Probably to find out more, like, okay, who's in the car? How long have they been in the car? Are there any scratches? Really? Well, maybe. Maybe. My friends, if you are new to the channel, thank you for joining us. Please hit that subscribe button. Here we are tracking the suspect. And he is landing, and we're about to find out more. But, and I'm going to be closing this out here in a minute because we were just covering it till he landed. And so it's turned into its final descent. It's lined up to land on runway 5 at Pullman Moscow Airport. And it will be in the ground almost less than like 7 minutes. And to me, Here's why I think this is a big deal. This is where it truly starts for getting justice. Granted, when he was arrested, that's a start. But if he's the perp, nothing can happen till he has his day in court. So now that next process begins. All right? That next process begins. And so, nothing yet. Just checking, see if anything has been received. What's that? Nope. Okay, still not landed yet, at least not that we know of. Let's see here. You notice that the plane has stopped moving, which means it must be, I thought it would turn orange, meaning that its altitude is back down to 0, meaning that they landed, but I am not seeing anything like that. But it does look like he has landed, and now we wait for more. Let's see. Nope. Let's see anything else that we need to be coming out. Nope, that's the wrong one. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. I really appreciate you guys. I'm learning how to get better and better at this. And the whole 9 yards. Let's see here. Anything new that we need to know about? Not yet. I would think that Fox News things would be out all over. Yeah, it is. So let's see. Nothing yet. Nothing yet. My friends, I've shared about all I think of in any new updates on Bryan Kohberger. He is now going to be facing his day. And tomorrow, hopefully, we see what they have on him. I truly believe that because of this high profile, there's going to be something along the lines that we will not know about. But I could be wrong. I totally could be wrong. Do you think that he will face the death? Do you think that? Because I think they're going to throw it on the throw it out there that, hey, if you want to avoid that, let's talk about a plea deal. Let's talk about something that you can avoid that. If he is guilty, he should never see the light of day again. Ever. Which I'm pretty sure he won't. Because he clearly has a fascination, allegedly, of doing this. To him, this is what he wanted, right? And so, I'm looking at Brian Enton. Someone just made a good point. The docket at Chasing Paper 89, he shared Casey White went in front of the judge at like 10 at night after being extradited. So anything is possible, I guess. That's a fair statement. And I think it's interesting that, even when he was pulled over, they didn't write him a ticket. Both times they gave him warnings. Both times. Did they just find something to like, hey, we're just giving you a warning, but it was really a reason to pull him over? FBI says it was. Bryan Kohberger has landed in Idaho. He has officially landed in Idaho. Now the images will probably start coming out. Let's see. Because people always want to be on top of things like this. One person lives in the UK. She's tracking Brian's flight. A lot of people have been tracking Brian's flight, while a lot more people are like, what is wrong with people tracking the flight? I'm tracking the flight so that we can do this together. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be tracking the flight. I was kind of tracking it today, but probably just more like, what's going on? When's he going to be there? I don't know. I just find this all so heartbreaking. Please pray for these young kids taken from this world way too soon. My friends, it's things like this that we only wish and pray that this never, ever happened. And truth is, we don't really know what even ever leads to these things, right? Really, why would anyone ever do such a thing? I don't know. I personally don't know, but I really think that I just wish it never did happen. Let's see. I'm just waiting for some images to come out since we're already on here. No need stopping it now, right? Waiting for some images to come out. Waiting for someone to share. And I love what Gonsalvez's family said, about the arrest of Kohberger. We feel lucky knowing we have somebody. Like, at least there's some break that says you guys are doing your job and we might find peace at the end of this tunnel. That's how I take that. At the end of the day, if it's not the right one, well, that's an interesting thing. But why would the dad discuss the shooting? Well, it's because it came from WSU. We just came from over there. You probably heard about that, right? That's how I take that. Right? That's my take on it. But when you really stop and think about it, crime happens so much. To find out this guy, Bryan Kohberger, student, future professor, future criminologist, PhD student, like very intelligent, very smart. People describe him as awkward as well. But what is that all about? Looks like the plane that may carry Kohberger has touched ground. And the drive from Pullman to Moscow is around 15 to 20 minutes. I'm wondering if we'll have pictures. That's all I'm looking for. Give me some pictures. Share with us what's going on over there. See him come off of it. Let's see. Nope, that's just someone else's. Nope, not there either. Maybe not. I bet you soon as I get off here, it's going to start blowing up. I bet you. Like all the images will start coming out as soon as I get off of this thing, right? And so, this license plate thing continues to be a hot topic, right? So here we have the license plate of that when he's doing his, when he got a new license plate for his Hyundai Elantra 5 days after the incident. You can see all of the information there. When it was done and all. Title issued. He's got a new title for a new license plate for his Hyundai Elantra. Interesting. I truly believe there's a reason behind that. Literally. All right, Brian Ensign, you going to share any pictures? Someone's going to share? Someone's going to. I know it. It has to be, right? You can see the plane when it was landing. Let's show you that while we're on here. Right? Where are you at? There's the plane. Here it is, landing, carrying our suspect, Bryan Kohberger, just landed after the cross-country flight. Plane is on the ground, and then the next phase officially begins. And I feel like the first phase was catching the perp who did this, or at least a suspect, because right now he's just a suspect. And then boom. Now the next big part starts. There goes that plane. Man, I get chills thinking about it. Literally get chills thinking about it. Well, he is down. Let's see who's gonna. And you know, we don't know how long it would even take to get off of the plane to keep him away. But there will be some images. There will be something showing him. Truly, truly. We already know that. I'm just waiting for a few of them to break while I'm still on. But he might not have gotten off yet. He might not have gotten off yet. You know, the coverage, this is one of the most talked about cases we've ever seen. Is that not true? Like, this is literally, what has been bigger than this? Again, Bryan Kohberger has been trending all day on Twitter, trending all day on Google. That's how much people are tied to this. Literally. So, my friends, I guess it's time to wrap it up. I'm sure there's going to be some stuff that comes out, and I'm sure you're still going to be following it. But I do want to say thank you for joining me on this trip back, basically from South Dakota here, or should I say there, to their final destination in Pullman, Moscow Airport. I'm Manny Rodriguez. My friends, thank you so much for joining me today. And as usual, I just want to be a voice for the victims. I want to be a voice for you. I want you to know this is the crazy world we live in. We have to be extra careful, my friends. I'm Manny Rodriguez. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you have an amazing, amazing day. Be safe out there. Peace.